Our voice of caring partner for February is the St. Louis Reconciliation Network. And here with me today is the founder and president, Dave Gustafson. Also from Cincinnati, who's part of the project, is Brandon Wilkes and Bernie Sammons, who is working with the network as well. First of all, Dave Gustafson, how did you come about founding the Reconciliation Project here in St. Louis?
Well, I moved here to St. Louis in 1985 and had been troubled for a long time about the broken race relations of our region. And so in 2012, I, along with a few others, founded the St. Louis Reconciliation Network, whose mission is to heal the broken race relations of the St. Louis region by harnessing the potential collective power of its diverse faith communities. And what we're focusing on right now is training, faith-based training, biblically based training that Brandon Wilkes is helping us offer to the St. Louis region.
And Brandon, you came from Cincinnati where a very similar project, almost exactly the same, I guess, was already underway.
Right. Back in 2001, there was riots that happened as a result of the shooting of an unarmed African-American young man in Cincinnati. And from that, my church, People's Church in Cincinnati, developed a curriculum in which we just began to have difficult conversations about race with the undergirding of the biblical principles. And from that, we developed this is called the Multi-Ethnic Christian Life Primer. And I moved here to be a part of a church called One Church, which is an intentionally multi-ethnic church, back in 2014, right before the thing in Ferguson happened. And that's how Dave and I connected, and we really just linked up with the St. Louis Reconciliation Network and began to provide this training as a whole.
And Dave, what makes this network different? There have been efforts over the years to try to get the races together. What makes the network different?
Well, what we're doing differently than others is that we have this training that we're offering that's biblically based, and so that the participants, who are both African American as well as whites, are able to come together and have the common ground of the gospel, their shared belief in Jesus. And this makes it possible for them to realize that they have a common bond that's far stronger than any of the things that divide us here within this community. And we've really seen this function in a way to help open minds, especially, to be honest, within our white community, to make them realize some of the things that our African American brothers and sisters are going through.
And Brandon, you tackle the tough topics. What are some of those topics that some of us would rather just not really bring up?
Well, I think there's so many that when we start talking about the socioeconomic disparities within the African American race versus Caucasian, when we talk about history, we can't just gloss over the fact that for such a long period of time, the African American community was not considered really human or citizens within the U.S. And those types of things are difficult because often when you have those conversations, especially within mixed company, either our white brothers and sisters will feel guilty and feel kind of reserved, or African Americans may feel really just uncomfortable having those conversations. And but when you have it within this context where we first come together as brothers and sisters in Christ and then talk about those things, recognizing that when we walk away from these conversations, we're still, most importantly, brothers and sisters in Christ, it makes it a lot more beneficial for both sides, and it's just a beautiful outcome as a whole.
And Bernie, you are out there now conducting some of these classes, I understand, in the Catholic community.
Yes. So to kind of summarize, I think why this training or class is a beautiful thing to happen for St. Louis right now is the first couple classes happen in West County. And West County right now has a low awareness of, and really ownership of the collective problems that are happening in St. Louis. And so the beauty of these classes is that the conversations between African American folks, white folks, we're building connections and relationships that were not possible otherwise. And so there have been two of those so far. I went through the first one. It was right after, it was January after Ferguson and that type thing. And it was a very, very healthy class for all involved. And then from that, I thought I would bring that experience into the Catholic Church, and we're now cracking that code with the Catholic rules and parish structure and that kind of thing. But we've had one class so far with Catholic folks, and we're planning a second one.
And Dave, your headquarters here are on Del Mar Boulevard. That's not a mistake. That's not by accident.
No, not at all. I'm looking right down Del Mar at the moment, and this, of course, is the famous Del Mar Divide. And we were talking earlier about a very interesting video that BBC put together a couple of years ago about the Del Mar Divide and the unbelievable disparities. To the south of us, we have gated communities, million-dollar homes. To the north of us, largely undeveloped, abandoned homes, and it's very sad, but I'm happy to say that we're based right here on the Del Mar Divide, and with the loop trolley, which is coming along here, we're beginning to see development, and we want to become part of that redevelopment here in St. Louis to create a much healthier, thriving community. And we very intentionally chose this location on Del Mar to be right at the center of that hopeful rebirth that is beginning to take place within St. Louis.
And how can we help you bridge that divide?
Well, one of the things you can do is we are offering our next training class begins on February 28th. We have plenty of room for more folks to join who want to become part of it. So please check us out on our website at stlrn.org, where you can learn more about the training. Also learn other ways you can connect with us. You can make donations if you choose to. We are a 501c3. Fully tax-deductible donations are possible to the Reconciliation Network. So we really appreciate everyone who has an opportunity to help us out.
And that's our Voice of Caring partner for February, the St. Louis Reconciliation Network.